Morning, morning, morning.
Good morning to you.
Morning, morning.
Thank you for waking up with us, family, on our first show in the mornings. We hope you had a very productive weekend. And special welcome to all our new listeners. And please tell all your friends. Our classes begin at 6 a.m. Monday through Friday. Later, our guest will be Professor, a Black politics expert, actually, Dr. James Taylor. He's going to join us. He's going to talk about the misery index in elections, race massacres, and what the polls are saying. But to get us started, our very first guest in the mornings is financial expert JB Radio. JB there?
That's yes. Good morning. It is
Good morning.
fantastic to hear your voice. This is the first time ever in my entire life I get the opportunity to hear your voice first thing in the morning.
Well, thank you. This reminded me, I forgot that I did mornings here a while back, but I did.
Wow.
So this is like a second time around
Okay.
doing mornings. But we had to have you on first because, everything revolves about finances these days. We can't finance the revolution unless we have money. We can't do anything unless our finances are in packed,
So
So
true.
that's why you're on first.
So
you
true.
know. So,
So true. A lot of people
so,
can't sleep at night because they don't have their
yeah,
money right. If we
right.
can get our day started with just having our financial house in order, what a positive way to start the day, just knowing that you're going to address your day in a positive way, just being organized. And I thought about you over the holiday weekend, and I said I have to remember to share a funny story for some of the people who are driving into work today. Can I share a funny story?
Sure. Well, before you do that, let me welcome all our listeners at
Okay.
WOLB in Baltimore. There are some of our new listeners there. So,
Nice.
folks, tell your
Nice.
friends down in Baltimore here. Just tell all your friends to, join us every morning here at 6 o'clock. I'm guaranteeing that you're going to learn something. And you're going to learn something this morning, too. So call your friends, wake them up, and tell them JB Bryan is on the radio. And later on, for our Baltimore listeners, you're going to meet Dr. James Taylor. He's a political scientist and teacher at the University of San Francisco. So, he's on the West Coast, but he's going to be joining us, too, this morning. But, JB, share that story with us.
So there's this brother who's a member of Afro Economics, and he was telling me that he lives up there and he lives in Mitchellville, so right around Baltimore. Hey, welcome to everybody in Baltimore. Yeah, you know where Mitchellville is. I spend most of my time in DC area. So the brother in Mitchellville was telling me that he had a job and he's retired now, but still in Mitchellville. And he said when he was working, he would always drive to work in his oldest car possible. He said he just felt that he should not try to flex when he goes to work. And I said, it's a good point. And he said, and the reason that I really knew I'd made the right decision to drive my oldest car to work, he said, because one day I was out there in the parking lot and my boss saw me trying to get my car to start. See, the way I would get my car to start is I'd have to put my leg out the door and just pump the car to pump it to get it to start. It was just the way the car started. He said, so when it came time for getting raises, he said, his boss said, man, I tried to look out for you best I could. He said, so I gave you the biggest raise in the office so that you could get you a new car, man. he said, and after that, he said, I knew that I would never flex. And he's like, he had, really nice vehicles at home, but he just knew that we should not drive our nicest car to work. So everybody who's on their way to work or thinking about getting in your car to go to work, think about it. Now, do you need a raise? You might want to take the brother's advice in Mitchellville, who's now home, chilling and retired with luxury and everything in his garage. And he's probably listening, saying, JB, you telling him now, you telling him too much. But he said his boss looked out. I mean, he's like, he got like four times the raise of everybody else. It was like, it was
Wow.
amazing that year. He said just because he saw him out there pushing his car, pushing the car.
Yeah,
So,
but you know what,
mm,
JB? It's a shame that we have to say things like that because sometimes when you are successful, you can't
mhm,
share your success with everybody because not everybody wants you to be successful. Even the people that you're real close to, even family. So I
mhm,
understand where that brother's coming from.
mhm. It is. It is. And especially at work, because if you're going out in your vehicle, because it's not like it's your home, but your vehicle, which is a luxury item, is costing you more than what your boss's vehicle is costing them, then it's easy for your boss to see that you waste your money because a vehicle
Yeah,
is not like and we really should bring that home because often we do say to ourselves, "Oh, I can drive whatever I want." It's different when you own your own business because you can drive whatever you want, and in many cases, as like I said, you're a realtor, you could even have a vehicle that can be written off at least partially in most cases as a business expense. That's a different situation. But for most people who are getting a W 2, that flex can be a very expensive, non tax deductible luxury that can be costing you millions over your lifetime. So, look, we could call this moment, the cost of your commute. Because, like, how much is your vehicle costing you for the payment and the interest, but also because what it costs you to actually fill it up. Right? I mean, we're talking about
yeah,
gas prices
yeah.
now. So
Right.
if you're driving a car that requires premium gas, it's costing you twice as much as other vehicles to fill up. Now
Right.
s
And
now
we had a
servicing.
conversation
Mhm.
this morning with a producer, and we were talking about whether or not folks are back in the office. He says no. And this is you could, I guess, you spread this across the entire planet. Folks are working from home. It's going to be hard to get folks back into the office these days because you mentioned about the gas prices and the hassle, and people have been working from home and yeah, it's gonna be a trip. It's gonna be hard to get people in. But before I even do that, I got to ask you a question. Are you
Mhm.
broadcasting live? Can people see you? Because I know before in the afternoons you were.
Oh,
Just for our
definitely.
new listeners, can they see you? Okay, tell us
Definitely.
where.
Yes, indeed. Go to YouTube, to Afro Economics. You'll see JB Bryan on the Carl Nelson Show on YouTube. You'll go to Facebook. You'll see JB Bryan on the Carl Nelson Show live. You'll see two places on Afro Economics on Facebook, on JB Bryan on Facebook, on LinkedIn. So go to your favorite uh, social media access and you'll see us there. Definitely. Had to get the my engineer up early this morning too.
Good, good. We put to work. That's good.
That's
Because you know
right,
what,
because Carl's
JB,
worth it.
that's right. So everybody should be on.
That's
But I
right.
got to ask you this question though, because we're in almost into a recession. They're going to meet today. I guess Biden's going to meet with his financial experts to figure out what the
Mm,
next move is, what the government can do about this inflation problem. I'm going to lean on you if you can
mm,
help tell us what we should be doing, some of the strategic moves that we can be making to help us mitigate some of the extra charges that we're going to see. Because you mentioned it the last time you were on, you go to the stores and you see items that you bought for, just use an example, $2. Now they're $8, and you
mm,
you, there's an impulse
mm,
whether you want to pick it up or leave it, whether it should
mm,
stock up or not. So
mm,
help us out here. As we
mm,
stare into this inflation, should you
mm,
should you start buying items as much as possible,
mm.
stocking up? Because the concern is that the price is going to go up. What say you?
Yeah. And the major trickery now is that businesses have had the time to make their packaging smaller. So now they are being able to get around making it look like they're charging you more. They just make their packages smaller. My husband said the other day that his deodorant is smaller than it used to be, or antiperspirant, whatever you men use. And I was like, "Is it?" He was like, "Definitely, this is smaller." That, but
Is right.
that's how they save money now. so they can charge you the same, but they've had time so that they can create the new packaging, because now it's been 2.5 years, through COVID. They started doing that during COVID, and then the government was like, that's not cool. That's not cool. Don't do this. That's price gouging and things. But then now the government has turned away pretty much and allowed this movement to continue on, especially on vitamins and the things that we're using to supplement and develop our immune system. You can see that the vitamin jars are much smaller than they used to be, but the prices have stayed about the same, but you're getting
Right.
less.
Well, I see the prices,
Mhm.
many of the prices going up, even though the
Mm,
packaging, as you
mm,
mentioned, has gotten smaller. You
mm,
know, Uh, so they're winning on both sides. So the question is though, whether it's vitamins or deodorant, do you
mm,
stock up or do
mm.
you wait and hope the prices come down?
I think that for most households, you should be avoiding the the desire to stock up on things like that. And you should be focusing on saving your money, like making sure that you focus on stocking up cash, having an emergency money, not emergency items. Even though I think it's easier to focus on having stuff, like a closet full of stuff, I believe that you're better off having a of an account full of money to purchase the things that you're going to need down the road that may change. So we definitely need to make sure that you only buy what you need on demand and focus on making sure that you have your savings as a major part of your life and avoid going into any debt, because what will happen when you do this stocking up, you're more likely to take advantage of the credit card. Like, say you join one of these
Hold
stores
that thought right
that
there,
have the membership.
JB. We got to
Yes,
take a short
definitely,
break. Hold that thought
definitely.
right there. When you come back, you said we should hold on to cash. So
Mhm,
hopefully you'll tell us what we should
mhm,
do with the cash, because I know
mhm,
you just can't stick it under the mattress or something like
mhm.
that. Folks, you want to join us? Reach out to us. Our number is 800-450-7876. Good morning to our listeners in Baltimore on 1010. Talk to you right after the short break here around where information is power.
I'm not sure why my chat won't come up. The So your
Good
chats
morning,
will not
traffic
come up
sponsored by Whole Foods Market. Light to moderate volume around the area. No
in
early
our
issues
social.
to report
Oh,
as
this
you
is
head
sometime.
southeast northbound on I-295, going up from the
It's
Beltway in
not showing
Knoxville
you
toward the
today.
11th Street Bridge. There might be a problem though southbound on DC
Oh,
295 now at Bennett
maybe
Road. Reports no problem. There's some delays coming down
maybe
through
you're
Burroughs
just
Avenue
quiet,
and
right?
Capitol Street. Lights are still emergency
Thank you so
responding.
much,
New York Avenue, one
Mr.
cycle clear for
Golightly,
lights at Lakersburg
for
Road and West
waking up.
Virginia Avenue, and you're better into Northwest.
It's,
No issues on the Baltimore
if it
Washington
weren't for
Parkway
you,
exit
Robert, I
1.
wouldn't have
No
known that
issues
everybody
on
was
the
awake.
10th Strip from the
Thank
Beltway
you, my
to the
brother.
District Line. Around the outer loop of the Beltway, all is well through New
I
Carroll
said,
to
oh,
Greenbelt, just head
it's
for
broken.
I-35 to Townley Park, and continue around through Silver
Good
Spring.
morning,
At the Meat Market,
Michael.
enjoy kebabs and sirloin
Good
steak for
morning, Mr.
$6.99 a pound
Johnson.
through May 31st, while
Good
supplies last.
morning, Mr.
Plus,
Bentley.
Prime members save an extra 10%.
Thank you
Learn more
again,
on the
Mr.
Whole Foods Market app.
Golightly,
I'm Robert Workman for News
my
640
brother from
WAFW
Petersburg,
Wealth, where information is power.
my brother
I'm
from
Joel
another
Clark, the
mother.
Select Quote agent,
You're
with a
my
true
brother
story
because
that
your
could save you
sister
hundreds
is
of
my
dollars a
sister.
year.
That
A
makes
woman
you my
named
brother.
Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group
If
life
your
insurance
sister is my
policy,
sister,
but is
then you
changing
must be my
jobs and he
brother.
can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found
Oh,
Ray,
thank
who's
you,
40
Mr.
and takes
Johnson.
medication to control his high blood
Thank
pressure,
you.
a 10-year, $500,000
That was
policy
funny.
for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he
Man,
was paying. If Select Quote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying
hey,
too
we
much.
should go wake
For your
her up.
free quote and to find out how much you can save, call
That's funny.
1-800-885-1960.
I said,
That's
the messages are
1-800-885-1960.
broken, Miss Davis.
1-800-885-1960.
I forgot. It's 6
Or go
a.m.
to
Let's go.
selectquote.com. Since
Let's go.
1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on
Woo.
example policies at selectquote.com.
Paul got the light on me.
Your health insurance company and other
Y'all
factors.
ever wonder what I look like? You see today.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about
Woo.
those round trips that you plan in advance?
Head it out.
Perfect
You
on
have a
your way
wonderful
there,
day too, my
perfect
brother.
on your way
Yes,
back.
indeed.
Or those meetings
Yes,
with friends
indeed.
for which you make a group chat 3 months
Amen.
before so that no one or
Mom is
anything is
proud.
missing. Or your daughter's first birthday party. You planned it
Hey,
with
right,
such
rising right
dedication that
back
instead
at
of a
you, Miss
first date
Davis.
felt like our 15th. The same way you plan each detail for those moments.
Franklin Fleming
Start
up
planning
early.
to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster.
I didn't know y'all got up this early
Sign
at
up
the
for
Fleming
severe
house.
weather and emergency alert.
Let's go.
Prepare an emergency kit.
Let's
And
go.
make a family communications plan.
Charlene
Protecting your
Anderson.
family is the best plan.
Charlene
Get
Anderson.
started at ready.gov.
You work this shift?
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
I know you got up this early since you retired.
Now back to the Carl Nelson
Find out
Show.
everything.
Thank you for staying with us, folks. Good morning, especially
go.
for our new listeners in Baltimore who listen to us over the airways of 1010. Thank you for joining us this morning. Also, our listeners in Washington, D.C. here in the DMV on 95.9 and 1450 WOL. Talking money with our financial expert from Afro Economics, JB Bryan. JB's online. You wanted to see what she looks like. JB, if you got questions, you can ask JB there, and she'll read the questions for us. But if you want to get on the air and ask the questions so everybody can hear the questions, reach out to us at 800-450-7876. Numbers toll free, 800-450-7876. Already got some calls for some people are up. But JB, I'm gonna let you finish your thought because you were telling us about we should hold on to the cash. So what do? Where do we put that cash?
Well, just holding on to the cash is making sure that you have an emergency fund. And then, like a lady said to me the other day, she was like, but then how do I make sure I make the most interest on it? And then I make I was like, well, just first of all, just get into a habit of just holding on to it. Like, let's first just get it into a savings account. We have to get into a habit of of just having it there. Like, get that discipline down. Get the discipline down of having it there without touching it. Like when you had me on your show when COVID first started, and I said, when you get that check, let's see if you can get that stimulus check. Because if you don't need it, can you save it for me? Do you have the ability to just save it for me? And I remember saying that. And and most Americans, according to research, didn't save it. The overwhelming majority of people now are in more debt than they were previously. So that means they didn't save it. Because if they had saved it, then more people would have less debt and they'd have more savings. So somewhere in there, like right when they first started sending it out, like everybody was saving more money. Like, I don't know, but they weren't spending. People started saving. So it only lasted like for a minute. So if you could get into the habit of having money just sitting there for a minute, get into that discipline of having it, and it's just getting that little teeny interest rate. Yeah, that's all it's getting. Let me see that. Let me see you. Then let's address that. But it never happens. They can't stand it. It's just sitting there. I remember, like, I was at a movie last night, and I was so impressed with myself because I sat next to my husband, and he had popcorn, and I didn't eat any of it. I was so impressed with myself. I was like, wow. I don't remember, the last time, but I'm determined that I'm going to lose 30 pounds, like before his birthday in July. So I'm not going to eat any of his popcorn. But we have to have, if we have a goal, we have to stick to it. We have to be able to do things that we couldn't do before. And that means that things are going to have to be in your face with discipline. And that's why I was saying that I don't really like those places where you have to pay to be a member to go and buy things. Why in the world do I need to have 100 rolls of toilet tissue in my house unless I'm going to sell toilet tissue to someone else? I mean, oh, so you go in and you pay way too much for toilet tissue when you really need to be buying some eggs or something. I don't know. Like, and and there are people like people that own a restaurant and people, those are the things that those type of stores were really created for, I think. People that need to purchase things in large quantities at a discount, or for the Waltons family. I don't know if y'all remember the Waltons. Like they had like 8 kids, but like that. But like for my daughter, her father gave her a membership to Costco, and I'm like, you do not need that. Like I don't want her in there. She does not need to buy anything in that quantity of eating. No single person, in my opinion, needs to have a big bucket of nuts in their face. Oh my goodness. So,
But you know what? We're going to talk about this in a moment, JB. Tyrese, the actor or rapper, whatever he is, he gave his daughter a rose. She graduated from middle school. So we're going to talk about it later because you mentioned your daughter getting that Costco card. But what do you do with the cash? Where do you put? Do you put it in the bank, a savings account?
Put it in your savings account. Put it right there in what you have. You don't even need to call me until you have proven to yourself that you have done that for at least 90 days. That I have saved this for at least 90 days. Then you call a registered investment advisor, some licensed financial professional that you trust, and you say, what are some things that I could do to increase my investment return? Because I have been saving this for 90 days. I've been saving this for 6 months. I want to talk about what I should do to go to the next level. And then they should talk to you about, are you maximizing your things at work? Are you, do you have, this might not be enough. They should talk to you about general financial planning. But this is a good first start, is to make sure that you have that savings discipline down first. Just discipline.
So you have to have a goal for the savings, because a lot of people feel they earn money, so they're going to spend it like there's no tomorrow. They just got it. They burn the hole in their pocket. They just got to spend it. They live on the edge, check to check, and so
there's research
like that.
Yeah,
they should set a goal.
That's right. There's research that says it's called the marshmallow effect, or that the children in the study who had the self-discipline to wait until the person who left the marshmallows left the room, and they said, little child, if you wait, I will give you 2 marshmallows when I get back. If you don't touch this marshmallow, I will give you 2. The child that waited till they got back was the child that grew up to be more successful. So if you're not bringing up a child who will wait until they get back with the second marshmallow, you are bringing up a child who lacks discipline. So you got to first be that person. You got to be the person who can sit there and not touch the popcorn. You got to be the person who can put the money in the savings account and not touch it. You got to be the person, who has the discipline first. Your kids are watching us. They're watching us. We have to be that person. So that marshmallow, I believe that self-discipline will go into every aspect of your life. If you look at successful people in every area, it down to and up to anything, it comes down to their self-discipline. You'll see people who have, skyrocketed, had the greatest opportunity in the world, thrown it all away because of their lack of self-discipline. They had to eat the marshmallow. They just could not keep their hand to themselves. I read this story in a tabloid, and it was talking about a brother that won the lottery. He got like $40 million. $40 million. He would have got $40 million if he waited, but they gave him $4 million if he wanted it all at one time. Now, right there, it shows that he can't wait on the marshmallow already. 40 or 4? He took the 4. So he takes the 4. He gives the cashier $2,000. He's a married man. He gives the cashier $2,000. He falls in love with the cashier or whatever. Falls in lust. He kills the cashier because she's messing around with somebody else. He is now in jail for the rest of his life. He will never enjoy the money.
That's sad.
The marshmallow.
The marshmallow story. That's what we're going to call this, the marshmallow story. JB, great advice. Listen, we're coming up on a break, and we got some folks who want to talk to you. Leon's in Baltimore. We just joined us from Stone Mountain, Georgia. You can do the same, folks. Reach out to us. The number's toll free. It's also worldwide. It's 800-450-7876. We'll take your calls next, right here on 1010 Baltimore, 95.9 and 1450. WOL, where information is power.
Don't you we to call in with no hard questions. Thank you, New Black World. Good morning. That's so beautiful. Oh, thank you, Dave. Don't you ask me no hard question. Try to give me a compliment, make me weak.
Venture X from Capital One is the travel card for people always asking,
Where next?
earn 10x miles on hotels and rental cars, and 5x miles on flights booked through Capital One
Let me
Travel,
see what you
and
said,
2x
Sharp.
miles on everything else you buy with Venture X. Plus, receive
Oh,
premium
that's so
travel
good.
benefits like access to
Yeah,
over
that's true.
1,300 airport lounges.
Me and my
The Venture X
morbid
card from
stories.
Capital One.
But it's
Plus,
true. I
zero
just
balance.
read it.
Terms
It happened in
apply. See
Florida. When I was in
capitalone.com.
Florida, it was
Yeah.
in the news. I said, oh
What
my goodness,
is
the brother gonna be in jail for the rest of his
My daughter
life.
started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day,
Alright.
you're black is beautiful. You're black.
Topic we are on.
And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart.
We on the topic of
If there's anything better
delayed
than being smart,
gratification.
it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't
That's
around.
right.
And I remember riding a bike and falling off and
That's
cutting
right.
myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn
Let's
how to
see.
ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Mama, what does the chicken say?
Chicken. Oh, okay.
What?
Oh, a wolf. Oh!
What about the tiny dog? Cat. Owl. Dolphin. What does the turkey say? Whale.
Whale. So.
Do the giraffe.
Giraffe, really? Okay. Giraffe. Giraffe.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right.
Visit NHTSA.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
Hey, you got this. Just breathe. Hey, we're pretty good.
yeah,
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services,
What did
and
you
the Ad
say?
Council.
Oh, sorry, I was reading something. What you doing, Linda
Now
Wallace?
back to the Carl Nelson
I got
Show.
your message. We're going to do the paperwork, Miss Wallace.
Good morning to everyone out there. Thank you for staying with us, folks, and good morning to everybody out there. Our guest is J.B. Bryan. A special good morning to our listeners in Baltimore, listening to us on 1010, and in the DMV on 95.9 and 1450 WOL. Please call up your friends and tell them we're on the radio. We're interested in saving money, making money, have invest money. This is a lady you need to talk to. She's a financial advisor. Again, the number is toll free. It's also worldwide. It's 800-450-7876. Let's take our first call. Let's go to Baltimore. Leon's waiting for us. Leon, you're on with J.B. Bryan.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Leon.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I heard about the syndication just yesterday when I tried to call 1010. I'm going to address some of the questions. I know I can only get 90 seconds, but maybe...
Hold on. You don't dictate the terms here, Leon. You're a new listener. You have a question for J.B. Bryan?
Yes, Miss. I'm not dictating terms, but
we'll give you more if you're sincere and you've got a good question. We don't limit you to 90 seconds. That's what I was telling you.
I was heard on the news or read in the paper. No, heard on the news that Warren Buffett purchased a gold mine in Africa for $100 billion. And as I was read it in the paper, and I said to myself, I bought some gold. I ran upstairs to my second apartment, which was a house that was transformed, and sure enough, there was the gold. But along with the gold, they wanted me to buy a safe, and I said, no, I ain't buying no safe. And I turned that gold over to my niece. And you're absolutely right about the marshmallow, because I was standing in the lottery line buying, I play about $5 or $10 a day, and this lady had a shopping list. And the kid was asking for a bag of potato chips, and she wouldn't buy it. I bought the potato chips for the kid, and he cussed me out. So that relates to your marshmallow theory.
Mm.
We tend to spend and live from paycheck to paycheck.
Mm.
I was in the O'Malley administration once I got out from the post office as superintendent of vehicle operations and investigation for the state of Maryland.
Mm.
And I joined the Martin O'Malley campaign.
Mm.
He, of course, became mayor. I was his chief investigator for 311. And when he went to become governor, I told him I couldn't go down to Annapolis because I was taking care of my brother in hospice. Okay. And in order to take care of someone in hospice, they have to come in dirt poor. And I wasn't going to let them give up my father's home that he worked hard for to raise us in. Am I on the right track so far?
All right. Thanks, Leon. Thanks for your call. JB?
You know, the interesting thing is he brought up a good point about if it is your personal residence as far as qualifying for Medicaid, you don't have to give it up for getting the support. But because it was their inheritance, it is considered an asset that they would have to give up. So in order to get, the assistance. So, because he said it was his father's and they wanted help for their brother. So if it was him and his brother who inherited the house, then half of the value of that house was to be given for his brother's support to get help. So that's interesting. That might be applicable to somebody out there listening. But
we want to get later on. We want to get into the fact of renting and own ownership too, JB. We got some more people want to talk to you. Leon, again, thank you for your calls. And folks, this is an interactive show. This all is, some shows they let you feel like you're eavesdropping on, on the conversations with the guests. This one, no, we welcome your calls. Again, 800-450-7876. Weeda's calling from Stone Mountain in Georgia. Weeda, you're on with J.B. Bryan.
Yes, good morning to the both of you, and thank you so much for taking my call. My question for you, JB, is
Beautiful.
In this season of high school, more specifically high school graduations, we have a number of graduates who are given monies for graduations. I know someone to the tune of has collected, or I say approximately $10,000 just from family members and other people that have, made contributions to the graduation for their success. Question is, what advice would you give to someone that has that amount of cash at that age at this particular time in their life? What financial advice would you give to that person or those type people?
Are they high school or college?
High school.
Oh, and like how much money are you?
$1,000.
Oh, you're giving them $1,000.
No, they collected altogether from everybody who's given them money to the tune of $10,000. I know two people. One person has $10,000 that they've collected. Another person has approximately, I'm going to say about $9,000 that they've collected.
A student received $10,000.
Right, all together from let's say the cousin, the mom, the dad.
Wow.
Friend down the street, people from the church, that kind of thing.
Wow. And they're going to college?
One is and one is not.
Okay. So they're definitely going to need the money. They just need to make sure that they have an emergency fund for themselves. And I would say this for any young person, they need to make sure that they have that rainy day emergency fund. If they, especially if they have a vehicle, if they're going to be getting a vehicle, they need to have a fund that will get the vehicle repaired so that they don't have to have those credit card balances and things. If they do have a credit card, they need to pay off the credit cards first. If they do, or they're considering doing school loan debt, they should avoid the school loan debt until that money runs out first. So say they're going to go to community college, they should use that money first. I know that, someone else is going to tell them, oh, just get the loan, but no, they should use, their money first, because if they fill out the financial aid form, it's going to ask, do they have that money? And it's against the law to lie that they don't have that money. So if they have that money, they expect them to use that money first. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a federal offense.
Okay.
Oh, you feel me on that?
In light of
say they, you know what I mean? Say they fill out a form and it says, do you have savings? And they say no. You know what I'm saying? They have savings. So they said no, but they do. And I think a lot of people will put zero, qualify for the loan, but it's a lie. And you're teaching them to lie. And it'll come up again later. And I think that we go, why did kid lie? You know what I'm saying? But you taught them to lie. You can't expect them down the road to only lie when it's convenient. I remember there's this rapper Juice World, and he was talking about when he's passed on now, and I hope I'm saying his name right, but we were watching his documentary, and he was talking about when he first got introduced to drugs. And he said, my mother introduced me to drugs. And it just, talking about it, when he was in elementary school, she started giving him drugs. And may they be prescription or not, that's how he started on drugs. And so we have to be accountable that if we start teaching, kids to lie, they don't have money, you know what I mean? And then also if they start working, the one that starts working, if they start working and they make money, they can start putting that part of that money into an IRA. So that could be put away into, and they wouldn't even feel it because they're working. So if they're going, especially the ones going to go directly to work, say they make, $20,000 that year, then they could easily put $5,000 into of that savings into an IRA that year. How wonderful that be. And it would grow tax
Hang on,
deferred.
ladies. We're coming up on a break. And when we come back, I'll let you continue this conversation. I think a lot of people need to hear this, and especially we're going to talk about, since she started about children graduating or folks graduating, and talk about Tyrese, who gifted his daughter a Rolls. She just finished middle school, going into high school with a Rolls Royce. Folks, what are your thoughts? You want to join this conversation with JB Bryan? Reach out to us, 800-450-7876. Show your hands, save some money right here on 1010 Baltimore. 95.9 and 1450 WOL, where information is power.
News and information that's important to you on WOL, News Talk 1450 AM and 95.9 FM.
Good morning, folks. I'm Earl Kirk. Here's the latest from NewsOne.com. A bipartisan group of senators is trying to find common ground on gun reform.
The Senate isn't in session this week, but the group is meeting remotely on Tuesday to discuss gun control policy. Texas Senator John Cornyn said the group will discuss background checks and potential limitations regarding what sort of firearms you can buy and own and maintain with a criminal or mental health record. The Republican said many issues should be discussed at the state level, but there are some things the Senate needs to do on a national level. I'm Bryan Shook.
A Memorial Day ceremony was held at Delaney Valley Memorial Gardens Monday with special honors for 3 fallen service members with Maryland ties. The parents of Airman First Class Dwayne Stevens from Chester attended the ceremony. Their son died in March while stationed at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada.
Unfortunately, we have to be here for this reason, but it is very nice to see that they do this for these families.
The ceremony also paid tribute to all service members who lost their lives while serving. A Prince George's County man is dead after drowning near Sandy Point. The victim and his family were fishing on Sunday when he jumped into the Chesapeake and was carried away by the current. Nearby boaters pulled the unconscious man from the water and brought him to shore. NRP officers tried to revive him but couldn't save his life. Alexandria Police will have officers stationed at both campuses of Alexandria City High today. The extra security comes after an 18-year-old was stabbed to death during a brawl between a group of students last week. Students will need to show ID to be allowed onto school grounds. The University of Maryland men's lacrosse team are bringing home a national title. The Terps beat Cornell Monday in Connecticut 9-7 to cap off a perfect 18-0 season while earning their 4th NCAA championship. Mets rout the Nationals 13-5. I'm Earl Kirk. When you're looking for news for Black America, go to newsone.com.
I know you got too much in there, Ms. Anderson.
Whole Foods Market, some early congestion inbound on Route 50, John Hanson Highway.
What you got is an example of too much.
Kenilworth Avenue have reports of a disabled vehicle.
I know it is.
Possibly on the ramp to go southbound on Kenilworth Avenue, so that could be the tangle through there. Doesn't appear to be affecting Baltimore-Washington Parkway traffic. That's only a little sluggish for the merging traffic at the Beltway, and then some slowing on the ramp to New York Avenue to head towards the Anacostia. If you go down DC 295, you'll see some brake lights.
Never too much, though.
Avenue down past
I know what you mean, though.
On the ride through South.
No, we can look at some things.
Building volume on Suitland Parkway at Naylor Road and at Stanton Road. I-295 looks good coming up past the Naval Research Lab towards the 11th Street Bridge. Headed for the westbound freeway. Maybe a problem on the ramp from the eastbound freeway to the outbound 11th Street Bridge headed towards 295. At Whole Foods Market, enjoy kebabs and sirloin steak for $6.99 a pound through today while supplies last. Plus, Prime members save an extra 10%. Learn more on the Whole Foods Market app.
Getting up.
I'm Robert Workman for News Talk 1450 AM
By
WOL.
7 o'clock. Let's see if we can wake up.
Now back
Let's
to
get
the
him up.
Carl Nelson Show.
You're rocking with the most ultimate. All right, let's go.
Thank you for staying with us, folks. And good morning, everybody in Baltimore, listening to us on 1010 and in the DMV on 95.9 and 1450 WOL. Our guest is JB Bryan. She's a financial advisor. We're discussing money. It's a good way to start our mornings. Tell your friends around the area in the mornings, especially those who commute, go to school, go to work. Check in with us each and every morning right here at 6 o'clock on 1010 WOLB and also WOL in the DMV on 95.9 and 1450. Before we left, we were speaking to Rita calling us from Stone Mountain in Georgia, and she was talking about gifts for graduates. So I'm going to let you, Rita, did you have a follow-up question for JB? You still with us?
You mentioned, yes, I'm still here. You mentioned the IRA. Now, for someone at that age or in that age bracket, would traditional or perhaps maybe even Roth be recommended as it relates to the IRA, in your opinion?
I always, if their work, well, the only way they can do either one is they have to have earned income. But the Roth is really for a person who has a lot of confidence that down the road they're going to have a tax problem, but that they're going to be inheriting a lot of income, or they're going to have a lot of income down the road, and they need to be drawing money out at retirement with no taxation. But typically people need to reduce their income now. But for this age group, a younger person, the Roth might be a little bit more convenient, just because they can take the principal amount out without, having to, haven't worry about any penalties. They can take the principal amount out. So the it might give them a little bit more flexibility, even though I really would love for them to just feel kind of locked in. The Roth is a little bit more flexible because you don't get the tax deduction. And with their income being lower, they really don't need the tax deduction, probably. So the Roth could be a little bit more convenient at that age. But for the average person that needs to reduce their taxable income, the traditional might be better. So, but it's really difficult to give that type of tax advice now. I have to be very careful, because the best answer is it depends. But for them, they would need to look at either one. And if they have, a licensed financial advisor in their life, that, especially a registered investment advisor like myself, Afro Economics is perfect, for them. Or if they have a family member that's in Afro Economics, that, they can get that kind of feedback. But great point.
Well, thanks, Rita. Thanks for your call.
Thank you.
I forgot to mention, folks, coming up later this week, we're going to talk to the folks over at Black Waxing Museum in Baltimore, of course, and then we're going to have a historian, Dr. Walter Williams, who's going to join us, and the mystery man himself, Mark from Anaheim, will be here. So if you're in the DMV or in Bmore, just tell friends to check us out now. It's starting 6 o'clock in the mornings right here. You mentioned earlier about, Rita in Stone Mountain, Georgia, mentioned about the fact about college students or students getting graduation presents. And I told you earlier how Tyrese, I think he's an actor or a rapper, or maybe both. He gifted his daughter, and they said for us to tell anybody how to spend their money, but he gave his daughter a Rolls Royce. She graduated, pardon me, from middle school. Anything wrong with that picture? Could he have done something differently for his daughter?
It depends on the type of person he's trying to build. He'll, if he, just wants her to be impressed with something that she really can't utilize at this point in her life, or he has the driver to go with it, or he's going to drive her around, or because she probably doesn't have a driver's license at this point, or he just wanted to make a social media post. There's probably a lot of parents in his income tax bracket that are just doing it. I remember, when they get around 16, my daughter, they start, doing all the social media posts. I got this, I got this, I got this. And it was really important for me to not get my daughter a car, but, it was really important to her father to get her a car. And And maybe it's a father thing, and we'll have to get some men to call in about that. Um, I didn't. My father didn't want me to buy a car until I could buy a car, and that's when I bought a car, when I could buy a car. My dad didn't even co-sign. He said, "Buy a car when you get a job," and I wanted the same for my daughter. And I thought it was a good idea. I was very frustrated though that my dad wouldn't co-sign for my car. I was really mad, but he made me wait. And I graduated from the University of Virginia and I got a job contract and I went to the car dealership and I got a ride with a friend of mine and she was dating a guy that worked at the car dealership and I showed him my job contract and that's how I got a car. And my dad was thoroughly impressed and I've been independent ever since. What that created was an entrepreneur. What is he creating? I think that if my dad had co-signed, I wouldn't be on your show today. My dad did not co-sign for my business. He did not put one dime into my business. Like he just didn't. You know, I graduated from college. They had a plus loan. He sent me the book. I paid all my school loans. Like, I think you create it depends on what you want to create. I mean, like, most of who I am and is
Let me
that
jump in
yeah.
here, JB, because some of the young people are probably listening,
Mhm.
and they're going to say, "Well, that's the old days. That's that. I can identify that, but these children are different. We were in a different generation now. So it's whole. You mentioned the whole thing about social media, and they want to floss and show what they got, and who's addicted to what.
Yeah. I would
Like
I
Dr.
would look
Fox would tell,
deeper
they want to
though.
show who's got the best.
Yeah.
So is that an issue? Is this a financial issue or a moral issue? How do you see it?
I think it's a moral issue because I think that my father was with me. My father raised me. And I think it's different. And I don't know if Tyrese lives with that child's mother, but my mom and dad were together my entire life. So my dad never hesitated to say no to me. Like, my husband left when my daughter was an infant. And I think their relationship, is different when they're not there like that. Like, when they have every 2 weeks versus when you're with that child all the time, saying no is easy. My dad had no problem saying no. So if, and I don't know, but if Tyrese is not like, like fully like invested like all the time, then really changed it. And I think that because of so much of our community, unfortunately, has that challenge, it has economically, from an Afro economics perspective, it has hurt us. And it has, it could help. Like we could
Let's talk
save
about
so
this.
much money.
Right. Let's speaking about saving money and speaking about automobiles, cars. What is it better to lease or is it better to buy it outright if you can, or is it take out a note? How would you finance a car these days?
I don't think anybody should really be buying cars these days. Like they are literally extremely overpriced. Like that's an easy one. Like if it, in the stock market, there's times where the stock market is like way accelerated. When you'll see all of the talking heads saying stocks are overpriced. Everything's overpriced. It's up 10, 20% year to date. Blah 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 blah, and you'll be afraid to buy. So we know that about housing. We know that about vehicles. So be careful, especially with used vehicles too. So I think that we really should be careful in that market because you're talking about, we already know they're depreciating assets. So when this comes back down and they start getting their supply back in the move, and you're going to have all of these vehicles that are worth nothing. And you're still going to have to make payments on. So be very careful on what you pay, what you buy now. I would only buy if your car is completely broken. This would be the time to become very familiar with public transportation, in my opinion. And a lot of public transportation is free now. Many cities, like, it's free to catch the bus, catch the metro. I mean, and that's a major way to save some money.
But JB, if you're trying to play the odds, and we can bring in the housing issue as well, how do you know when the price is going to come down? How do we have? Is there any flags, anything that indicates that that there's going to be a price drop real soon? So you better get your pennies together. How will we know?
I just think that we need to base things more on need. Just, do you need it? If you purchase things on need, then you don't really have to worry about price. We buy things a lot just based on want. Like, the commercials aren't trying to appeal to need. So you can tell where people are. Like, look at the commercial. It's not about, oh, this is a practical, like, if they're selling cars on need, they would be focusing on, this car gets 40 miles per gallon, like back in the day. Like, they would talk about how fuel efficient this car is and stuff like that. Now they talk about, like, how beautiful it is. Look at the sunroof.
Hold that thought right there. We got to take a short break so some of our stations can identify themselves down the line. Stations like 1010 Baltimore, 95.9 and 1450 WOL, where information is power.
This is reality radio.
The definition of distraction is something that prevents a person from giving their full attention to something else. Distractions have been used since the beginning of time to dilute the power of the masses in order to maintain control over their lives. Contrary to the continuing gossip and reactions, the most important couple to the lives of all Americans, but particularly to the lives of Black folks in this country, is not actors Will and Jada, but in reality is Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and his treasonous wife, Virginia. Clarence was the only justice. Let me say that again. Clarence was the only one on the Supreme Court to vote against releasing the Trump White House records to the Congressional Committee investigating the January 6th failed coup d'etat. Once those records were opened, it became evident that Clarence Thomas had cast his vote to protect his wife and ignored his responsibility to the voting populace of the USA. So why aren't Clarence and Virginia getting the same level of scrutiny and public discussion that Will and Jada seem to have a never-ending abundance of? Why is there not an outcry from every walk of American life for the mandatory retirement or removal of a man whose tainted opinions can directly impact every one of our lives? The reality is we have been dangerously distracted because a personal slap only affects the parties involved, while a wrong Supreme Court decision can slap millions of us in the face, all at the same time.
This is reality radio with Kathy Hughes. What's your reality?
Coming in at 5'3" it's #1 mom. She switched to Xfinity and got the all-new 3-for-1 bundle. Unlimited internet, streaming, and Xfinity Mobile. All for what you could pay wireless companies for just one 5G unlimited line. Boom shakalaka. Go to Xfinity.com/3-for-1, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit an Xfinity store today. Limited time offer, restrictions apply. Xfinity Mobile requires post-pay Xfinity internet after 24 months. Regular rates apply to all services and devices.
What is dedication?
My daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. If there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops.
That's dedication. Visit
Amen.
fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Amen. Being kind.
WOL, Washington, D.C. W240DJ, Washington. 95.9 WMMJ, HD3, Bethesda. WKYS, HD3, Washington. WPRS, HD3, Waldorf, and worldwide at WOLDCnews.com.
You're rocking with the most ultimate.
Now back to the Carl Nelson Show.
You're rocking with the most ultimate. All right, let's go.
And good morning, Washington, D.C. Good morning, Baltimore. And our new listeners over on 1010 Baltimore. You're listening to J.B. Bryan. She's a financial advisor. And we'd love to have you here as well. Tell all your friends we start at 6 o'clock in the morning. So we got to get up. The early bird gets the worm, as they say. And, of course, our listeners in the DMV on 95.9 and 1450 WOL. All right, JB, go back to the conversation we were having before the top of the hour break, discussing
right.
whether it's a good time to buy. You're talking about a house, or you're talking about, we start off with cars. But my question again is, you're saying because of the inflation and the possible recession, we should be careful where we spend these big ticket items. So is there an indication? That's what I'm getting at. Is there an indication that, well, now's the time to jump in before the prices go even further down or up, or do we wait and do what everybody else is doing? How do we handle that?
I just think that debt, especially long-term debt, has to be faced or has to be based on need and not on just, want, or this is what we want to do. And we've just become comfortable with, well, I just want to do this. I'm just, going to flip this. I just, we just want to switch out. Or we don't really have a valid basis for a lot of the decisions that we make. And we blindly do things and think about it later. And I that's not the best for us financially over the long term. And especially now, I think we should just be very careful, because many times when we close our eyes to these things that we're being solicited to do, and it's benefiting everyone else, they benefit from our community continuing to blindly do these things. Like, we can push this country, we can get this country through a recession, because we'll close our eye and still do things that are not necessary for us to do. Like in 2008 and 2007 and 2008, when a lot of the mortgages were happening and too many members of our community were buying and going into mortgages that we should not have been doing in the first place, when there were adjustable interest rates, and that you didn't have to prove that any income, and didn't have, when it just did not feel right and you knew it wasn't appropriate. And then it was, I'll worry about that later, and it would have to be refinanced in 3 years. But then 3 years later, the house was not worth more, and they told you, oh, in 3 years, for sure, this house will be worth a lot more, because see how everything else is doing? Look how everything is done. Shoot, 3 years ago, this was worth blah, blah, blah. So you're being pushed and sold on the past, but that's no guarantee of the future. So we have to stop allowing ourselves, our community, to be used to get everybody else through the hard part. No, no more of that.
And let me jump in here. Yeah, because a friend of mine just bought a new car earlier this year. Mercedes-Benz on top of the line new cars, and his note is like this before insurance and all the other stuff, almost $700. And they told him he could refi within 6 months. And I was trying to tell him that the rates are going to go up because the interest rates are on the upswing. What would you tell him? What can I tell him? Is that? I guess they coerced him into telling him that you get it at this rate, and 6 months later, man, you can refi and you bring your rate down. But I thought he got bamboozled.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Like they probably brought him in at 29, 30%. I mean, I've seen people with with interest rates on vehicles that high. And he just wanted the car. They needed to get the car off the lot. So they've accomplished what they need. So then now he has this extremely high payment. He goes back in 6 months later, the car is worth less. He needs to refinance. You know what I mean? Now it's like used twice. And he needs to refinance, and rates are even worse, like you said. Oh, it's bad.
So what does he do? Is he stuck at JB as a financial advisor? What would you tell him to do?
Oh, it's stuck. I've seen people in that situation. I've seen people with cars in their backyard trying to hide the car out so that they can try to come up with the money. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, why would you hide the car? Just give them the car. Don't make that payment. Why would you keep paying a $500 car payment on a BMW that doesn't work? Well, it just needs an engine and give them the car. No, that's the worst. Because that car on your friend, it can break down. And it's not covered. A lot of the stuff is not covered.
Unfortunately, the car for a lot of people is a status symbol. You know, they have to have, you mentioned the Beamer, the Benz, they have to have the top of the line vehicles, I guess, to show their friends that they're doing well. But then when the economy craters, they're in trouble.
Yes, I was last week I had a conference at the Ritz in Florida, and I'm for sure, Carl, that they purchase like Ferraris and stuff, and they just park them out front. Because this all week, the same Ferraris and the same like Bentleys or whatever were in the same spots all week. So they never move. I believe they're just like part of the look. They're just part of the look.
Yeah. So we've got to get beyond that. That's what she's saying. So
yes, like it's just part of the look. Yeah. And I'm like, how many people do they make feel uncomfortable, or you know what I mean, or everything with this look? Like, it's just they feel like they're, less than, or I gotta pick my game up. I gotta so and so. No, what you gotta do is just go in there and pay for your room and walk back out. That's all you gotta do. Oh my goodness. These people are working just like you. That's it.
Right. And we sort of mentioned a little bit about a recession is coming, and mentioned that Biden's meeting with his financial experts today at the White House to talk about a recession. Is there anything they can actually do, though? This is more politics than finances, JB, because, they're blaming the cost of oil and talking about the war in Ukraine and the wheat going up. So when the gas prices go up, that reflects everything else on the line that you have to drive, whether anything else that you need to buy is going to be driven somewhere. So the price is going to be passed on to the consumer. It looks like we're in a cycle that they can't break. How do you see it?
I believe that there needs to be a political movement in our community to express to the Federal Reserve that what they're doing is hurting our community more than they actually realize. I mean, that the impact on this is grossly more than on any other community because of our use of 90% of our community's income has to be used on things that are impacted by the inflation, just basic day-to-day needs that are up. So things like, so our community needs our income, which wages haven't gone up. So we're using all of our income just to pay our bills. Utilities are up, meaning like and millions of people's, utilities coming into their house, the power has been turned off for millions of people. Can't pay their utilities, and they know that. This, the stats are there that people can't buy gas. People are being evicted by the millions. They've stopped that. They've stopped it. The government has stopped it. Minimum wage is still minimum wage, less than $8. Like, there is no livable wage adjustment that was promised. It didn't happen. So unemployment is down. Like, people are working, but wages have not gone up. So people are working, but they can't live off of it. That's our community. We have to that I mean
Go ahead.
we haven't even begun to see this. We haven't begun to see the impact of this on on just the day-to-day level, average person level. If the Federal Reserve increases interest rates again, when you're talking about people living off their credit cards to pay their bills, and he increases interest rates again, this isn't about small businesses and the stock market, and the stuff.
Well, hold that thought right there, because we're going to take a short break. And when you come back, the folks who are, you say, using their credit card, is this the time just pay them out because the interest rates are going up? Help us with that as well. Got a bunch of questions for you. Folks, you want to join this conversation with JB Bryan, wherever you are in the world, reach out to us. 800-450-7876. Your call's next on 1010 Baltimore, 95.9, 1450 WOL, where information is power.
Good morning. Traffic sponsored by Whole Foods Market. Outer loop of the Beltway, starting from I-95 in College Park towards Georgia Avenue. Lanes all over.
You doing okay?
A little bit of sun there. Slow down now. You head past Route 1 and the Greenbelt Metro Station.
This light is no joke.
Parkway. Heavy traffic in Laurel as you head past 197. Congestion at the Beltway, then better into Northeast. Northbound a little slow from NASA Goddard up towards Laurel. On the right end on Route 50, pretty smooth trip from Bowie in towards the Beltway. Sluggish now from 202 into Northeast. Slow down DC 295 from Eastern Avenue all the way down to Pennsylvania Avenue. And heavy on New York Avenue from South Dakota Avenue to the light of Bladensburg Road, then better into Northwest. Southeast-Southwest Freeway, some congestion eastbound into the Sun Glare towards Main Avenue. Westbound, expect some delays on the 11th Street Bridge. At Whole Foods Market, enjoy kebabs and sirloin steak for $6.99 a pound through today while supplies last. Plus, Prime members save an extra 10%. Learn more on the Whole Foods Market app. I'm Robert Workman for News Talk 1450 AM WOL, where information is power.
Real talk drives real change. This era calls for us to face issues like higher education, justice reform, mental health, wellness, and financial freedom. We're focusing on these topics in D.C., Atlanta, Philly, and Houston. The series starts June 26th in D.C. Get free tickets, stream it, give support, or find help. Visit change.news1.com. Real talk drives real change. Fully charged by Chevrolet.
Hi, I'm Kathy Hughes, and I'm very happy to report that our strategy of Buy Black Tuesdays is beginning to work for the Black businesses in our radio markets. Thank you to each and every one of you who's already participating, and each week making a conscious effort to spend some money with a Black-owned business, whether on the local or on the national level. Commitment and conscious awareness of the power of our spending will slowly but surely have an impact on the economic growth in our communities. Now that you are doing conscious spending, how about encouraging your family and friends to join us? Because this can really work if we all participate. The recommended businesses for this week are
Kingdom Ventures LLC, kingdomventures.com, Yard Card on the Green, yardcardonthegreen.com, Tax Biz USA, taxbizusa.com. Thank you.
Now back to the Carl Nelson Show.
All right, let's go.
Thank you for staying with us, folks. Our guest is JB Bryan. She's a financial advisor. You got a question about finances, reach out to us. 800-450-7876. Got a couple of tweets for you, JB. Good morning. Let me just say good morning. I haven't been saying it much, but good morning to our listeners in 1010 Baltimore, in the Baltimore area. Also in the DMV on 95.9 and 1450 WOL. Got actually a tweet from London. One of our listeners in London says, good morning, Elder Carl. I'll take that, brother. Anyway, great first early morning slot. I'm listening as I type from London. I am liking what JB's saying about assets and bubbles and how we get sucked in. Then when refinance, it's for a higher sum than a lower sum presupposed. Not only that, he goes on to say, but I have witnessed a few snuggles with people over here. Some refinance and it went up after 3 or 2 years. Others get stumped with not being able to get money out of one new law or reason, or the other due to the fact that the contractor didn't have some kind of license for a refurb or properties that were bought for rentals, what we call buy to let. And he says, goes on to say, buy what's needed, no wants, and the wages in real terms are so low that many people over here are visiting charity food places for food. These are working people. This is from one of our listeners in London, Brother Mohem Ken.
Amen.
Brother Ken.
Amen.
Your thoughts on what he was saying? Because it seems like, oftentimes we think it's just here. It's just this country.
Exactly.
And I try to tell folks, because I read a lot of the newspapers from around the world, because we got so many listeners from overseas, so you got to keep up with what's going on in their part of the world. And you'll find out that the problems we have here, they have them all over. Those same problems of money, immigration, you name it. For black folks on this planet, we're all dealing with the same problem. So anyway, He says that they are visiting charity food places for food in London. Some of these people trying to make ends meet. So I want to get your thoughts on that. Do you think it's going to get that bad? Well, because we have a homeless problem too.
Yeah, and we definitely do. And I don't think that the majority of our community is really in tune with what is happening on the ground level. Like to most people, most average people, I guess I should say, the majority of the working class, I guess, like that doesn't understand that there are a lot of people out here who are struggling, and it's real, that because I think that so many of us that are listening, of you work for the government, have jobs, have been working there a long time. Your biggest challenge is, when should I retire? When am I going to retire? Should I get my driveway covered? Should it be irrigated, or, what type of irrigation system should I put in, and things like that. And that's, great. But, there's also a lot of people who are listening who are, concerned because they've been retired for a long time, and they're wondering, how do I get my house repaired? There's a lot of people who live in a house and they can't afford the house anymore, and the house is falling in around them, and their bedroom is leaking, and they're thinking, I hope it doesn't storm tonight, and the funding that the city promised them didn't come through, and the electricity doesn't come on in the basement anymore, and the tenants aren't paying the rent in the apartment, and they're like, how do I get them out? Because that was income that I have. A lot of hardworking people in that situation, that's their property, and the tenants don't want to pay. But the tenants do really want to pay, but they don't have the money to pay. And then I have clients who are filing the paperwork.
Before you go any further, let me jump in here again on the tenant issue, JB, because some of the like in New York, I got a friend in New York who's got some rental property, and his tenants hasn't paid in maybe 3 years because of COVID laws, and they can't get him out, and he's still got to pay mortgage on that building.
Yes.
Is there anything those folks can do? They just got to bite the bullet and keep making the mortgage payment, even though this is a sidebar. He looks at the tenant just bought him a brand new Beamer.
Has he filled out?
But won't pay the rent.
Did he do that COVID paperwork? he can try to file the COVID paperwork for that tenant. But
the tenant or the
on the tenant, but he
owner?
does have to, but that tenant has to like first qualify or something, but then I had a client that filed and then they said, no, you're not in the system. And she was using her social security number that she files for that property and it kicked back and she can't get the money. And they owe her 2 years of rent. And she keeps refiling for where the government told her to file the paperwork. It's like a W-9 or something that they have to file to get the money for the rent. And and from what I see, it looks
JB,
like
let me
she's
jump in here again because it is an issue, especially for landlords. So what's going to happen? Because obviously this abatement, COVID abatement, can't last forever. It's going to come to a point where it's over. Where a city, if you're in New York City or LA or places like that, and you're going to have to either cough up the rent, probably the back rent as well, which is now astronomical, or you're going to be homeless. How do you see what's going to?
And I'm pretty sure it's over. I think they're just trying to get the past due. That's it. Like what they're going to have to put them out. They're going to have to go and file. People are filing now. They're evicting people now. And we're going to have people on the street. And in DC, unfortunately, there are tents everywhere. And it's not good. I'm just glad the city they're letting the tents stay. But
yeah, and as we speak, Baltimore's got a housing problem, just like most cities as well. A lot of buildings that need repair. And there's some question at one time. I think Detroit did this at one time. They sold these buildings, these houses, if you will, for about $1 just to get them off the tax rolls, and hopefully somebody will buy them and refurbish them, and then start paying taxes on them. But that does not. And this is another. This is a social issue, not a financial issue. This does not help the homeless people.
Yeah, and I feel that it is a financial issue indeed. Social and financial is so connected, and political, because it does have to be addressed, and it impacts my client so much because it's my client that buys the property that has the tenant that can't pay the rent, and then it impacts their retirement or their future because they have the property that they have to figure out what to do with. And I mean, and I've had so many clients who've had multiple years of tenants, and from our tenants, our community, that aren't paying rent, and we're so much more likely to get evicted. And that's something that we really need to get that needs to be addressed on how to help our community have some sort of housing support or housing funding. When you're talking about the billions of dollars that are given to home buyers in interest credit, but you have these low income people struggling to pay rent and they get no help. But you have these people with 100,000 plus in income who are able to purchase homes basically for free because they get the finance and then write off the interest. Think about that, Carl. Yeah. They write it off on their itemized taxes. They're writing it off in this country, but the country does not think that it should help the renter pay their rent.
Right, and all the folks who we have on here who are against the capitalist system, they're probably applauding what you just said. But hang on a second, JB, we got some folks who want to talk to you. 800-450-7876. Anita's in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, on line 1. Anita, you're on with JB Bryan.
Good morning.
Morning, sweetheart.
Okay. Mr. Carl, you have caused a total collision for me in the morning. I have to now switch all my programming around to try to squeeze you in.
Oh.
You're at the best time. You had no competition for me.
Amen.
But right now, there's so many things going on. But anyway, I wanted to say this. This is funny because I decided to stay at home and have children, right? And I graduated from high school at 16. And I was at home by myself. There were no moms at home. People weren't getting married. You know, and I lived in Chicago, right? The suburbs of Chicago. And I lived in the south suburbs, which was a middle-class African-American neighborhood, all right? And so I happened to find a townhouse, right? And I had my children there, and I kept everything down low so that my husband could pay and still have time to come home. So I was wondering what the heck is going to really happen. People are already using contraceptives, and women are living like men. They don't have children, like men don't have children, and then they go to work.
Right.
And then
Anita, hold that thought right there. We got to take a short break. I'll let you finish your question or your comment with JB on the other side.
Okay. It'll be
right
a question.
Here on 1010 Baltimore and also on 95.9 and 1450. WOL, where information is power.
Almost all women groom their pubic hair, and over 80% of them experience negative effects from it. Body and skin hair are very different from pubic hair and skin. Treating pubic hair with the wrong tools can mean bumps, redness and irritation, dry skin, and ingrown hairs. The Venus for Pubic Hair Skin Collection is designed specifically for women's needs and gives pubic hair and skin the level of care it deserves.
That's a question for Weeda.
Or as a part of a collection at all major retailers where you
I'm going to pass that on to Weeda Davis.
Everyone knows even good people fall on hard times. Your credit cards get maxed out, and you get behind on your taxes. Unfortunately, the IRS is not as understanding, and they won't stop until they collect. They have the power to take your paychecks, freeze your bank accounts. Even your home could be up for grabs. It's simply not worth the risk to take on the IRS by yourself. You need to call the experts.
Oh, that's so good.
When you call, be sure to ask about
Hey,
the
Green. Good morning.
It's a special IRS
Thank you.
assistance program that could save you thousands if you qualify. Optima's team of tax professionals will get to work immediately fighting to protect you from the IRS and helping to ensure you get the best possible outcome. The Better Business Bureau has awarded them an A+ rating, and you will too. So put the hard times behind you and call Optima today for a free consultation.
Call 800-811-7033. 800-811-7033. 800-811-7033.
2019.
Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
14.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on.
Got to
No, we'll
hold
get through
on.
this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
Hey, you got this. Just breathe. Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit
Good morning. Good morning. It's
This message is brought
Williams.
to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services,
Talk to you soon.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba, please be done. Over and over and over and
Let me
over
see that. How you
and
spell
over,
that?
then surely you'll check
Samantha.
NHTSA.gov/the-right seat
Some
to make sure
Sonia.
they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Let me see what that is. Let
Check
me look
today
it
at
up.
NHTSA.gov/the-right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Now back to the Carl Nelson Show.
And thank you for staying with us, folks, and good morning to everyone out there. And thank you for waking up with us in our first show of the mornings. And now this is where the classes start, 6 a.m. And if you're driving to work, tell all your friends that we're on at 6 o'clock in the morning, especially our listeners in Baltimore, those of you used to listen to us online. Now you can just punch up 1010 WOLB in Baltimore. If you commute coming down to the DMV, you can switch over to 95.9 or 1450 WL if you're in the DMV. But before we left, we were speaking with Anita calling from Chapel Hill. So, Anita, your question or your comment for J.B. Bryan?
Okay. My comment is they're totally altering nature where women literally cannot have children. And then they wonder why women say, should I keep my child? Or the men say, can I afford a woman or do I need a man? I mean, they're just altering everything with this foolishness. And then they expect African Americans to have 500 years of free labor to compete with the free labor they never got for 500 years. We're competing with ourselves for giving people our wealth for almost 500 years. And we're supposed to catch up and be smarter and greater and make all these rapid recoveries. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, this is insanity. But anyway, the thing is, I always tell Carl that my children made it through college and they did very, very well. But the thing about it is, I'm like, this is not fair to young people that they can't get married or they have to, as my son just told me this morning, you have to get married and then act like you're not married, but you're married because you marry someone just for money. That's not good. This is causing a whole lot of problems. And the banks are just, the usury at the banks is retarded and really crazy. And it's not just bad for blacks, it's bad for all people because they'll rip anybody off that they can rip off.
Where do you live?
Right now, I'm in Chapel Hill because my husband and I, we divorced because the pressure was so heavy on him, you know, but he had gone to college. So I'm in Chapel Hill because he left here because he had gotten sick and then he left and I came in from Chicago to be with the children and the grandchildren, you know, and so that's where I'm at now. And their cost of living has just spiraled right on up to the same as Chicago now and getting worse. So the average apartment is $2,800 a month. And the kids are all trying to live together and they're making sure they don't live more than two to a bedroom. It's insane. They got people that use drugs living in these townhouses and they have like a common area where there's they got 5 bedrooms with 5 bathrooms and then these people use common areas. And what I hear, the people are actually using drugs. Can you imagine? This is the college town that Michael Jordan played basketball in.
Do you regret not becoming financially independent? Like not going to school?
I actually went to college at 16 and I was on honor roll, you know, at school. And my husband was 10 years older and he wanted to have children. So I quit and we tried to go back, but it was a catastrophe for me to try to go back because I was breastfeeding and having children. And I wanted to go back, but all my kids did honor roll, you know, in high school and made it to college and made it out of college. So no, my independence was my natural gift that God gave me. The thing is, how do I make that marketable and turn it into a skill? Because my kids had math and science, because that's what I was taking. And they can do art and computers and language. They do a lot of things, right? But so I don't know.
Let's give JB a chance to respond. Thanks, Anita. Thank you for your call. JB.
She sounds like a good like daycare teacher, you know, like she could do a daycare. But that is the, you know, challenge. It's just interesting to me, you know, what she was saying about like she, you know, started her family at 16, you know, just for people, there might be someone out there listening that, you know, when you do that, you know, the risk that now she's divorced and he, you know, she, you know, is with her now she's dependent on her children. And the thing, what you want to do as a parent is to make sure that you're financially independent so that your children, and you know, at least don't have to worry about you. Like, you know, my parents did a good job of that. Like, mom, you know, my mother might need me for some things, but money is not one of them. And that's a blessing. And so like
let me go here with, because she mentioned she's talked about jobs. You know, we keep hearing and we're seeing they're the unemployment rate keeps going down, and they're looking for people for work. How long is this going to continue? Do you think it's going to dry up pretty soon? Because it seems like they're changing their economics now to fit the situation. If they can't find anybody, they'll work lesser hours or pay people more. How is that working out with a job situation, JB?
Oh, shoot. You can get a job. The problem is they're not paying anything. Like, the thing is that people don't want to work for the wages that they're paying. That's the challenge. And I think that a person is better off trying to get into a situation where they can create their own income. I believe that if you can get into a situation where it's sales oriented, production oriented, where you're your own enterprise, where you are paid based on your performance. You have to have a lot of confidence and a lot of commitment in order to do that. But believe me, since I graduated from undergrad, I have been on 100% my own production. 100%. So it is possible to do that. I wish I could structure some sort of program to show people that you can create your own income for your entire life and feed yourself. And I think that we're so programmed to think that you have to get a salary, and it's so limiting, that you just kind of get into this, okay, this is how much I get paid, and you just get in it. And I remember, I worked at a bank for 7 weeks, and they told me I was going to make 28,000 for the year, and I was like, oh my, I mean, literally, like, that's all. And this was way a long time ago, y'all, like 30 years ago. There are people who make 28,000 now. That's unimaginable. Like, so and I said, I can't do this for this long. I have school loans to pay. So after that, I went to a job, and it's now owned by Radio One. And I said, I need this job, and I don't care what you pay me. Just let me have this job. And he said, I don't know. I'll think about it. Little girl, you don't know what you're doing. And I just kept coming back to that sales manager, asking him. I never told you that story, Carl, but I used to sell radio ads. And I just kept coming back. And I came back and came back and back. And he finally was like, look, if you sell for this station the way you kept coming back to me, we're going to be all right. And I did it, and that's how I became a stockbroker, from selling radio ads. But I had to prove myself. And if I didn't have that radio sales experience, they would have never accepted me as a stockbroker. So I had to thank Larry Jones, to be, he was the general sales manager, that, for like just believing in me enough that, like, this girl doesn't know anything about sales, but she certainly works hard. I accepted. I was like, I just want the opportunity. And I never saw 20,000, just zoomed on past it. Just keep on moving. But we have to.
That story.
What'd you say?
I said, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
story. I didn't know you worked at Radio One, but thank you.
It's evolved into Radio One, but it was like another company. Okay. But y'all ended up coming in and buying them out. But I was already gone, but it was one of the companies you all bought out, But it would have been, definitely.
I got another tweet from some of our listeners in Africa, so they're checking in with a new time slot. So we thank you all for following us. You mentioned we got a couple of tweets for you. Tweeter says, my son wants to move out, but waiting to hear about his student loan problem, which will affect his budget. Do you have anything that I can help him with? Because he wants to move out, but he's concerned about his student loan. I guess there's an abatement now as well on student loans.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the concern.
And he doesn't have a student loan problem. So make sure you adjust his mindset on that. Like, that is an investment that he made into his future. And it's fantastic. And now it's about just taking care of his responsibility. If that was a car loan, he would never say a problem. So how dare we think of a student loan as a problem, but think of a car loan as an opportunity, right? So he's definitely has an opportunity because the student loan will pay off forever. So what he's got to do is find out what his payment's going to be when they start the payment back and make sure he can afford it. Don't go out there and get the rent in the apartment because the loan hasn't started and get approved for the apartment based on no student loan. Find out and go to the apartment and say, my student loan payment is going to be blah, blah, blah. Am I approved?
Right there, JB. We got to take a short break, and I'm glad you're explaining this because I'm sure some other folks are in the same position. Folks, you want to reach out to JB Bryan. We're talking about money here. Hit us up, 800-450-7876, right here on 1010 Baltimore and 95.9 and 1450 WOL, where information is power.
Breaking news, we're all over. News Talk 1450 AM, WOL, and 95.9 FM.
Good morning, folks. I'm Earl Kirk. Here's the latest from NewsOne.com. President Biden will meet with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell today as inflation keeps causing headaches for Americans.
The White House says the meeting will focus on how the American and global economies are doing. The gathering comes a few weeks after the Senate easily confirmed
Life is so long, isn't it?
central bank. It's also happening.
Life is long, full of little twists and turns.
And more rate hikes are
Ever changing.
Twists and turns, I know. Who would have thought?
A firefighter was in the right place at the right time to catch a toddler thrown from a burning apartment building. Kenny McKinney is the fireman who made the clutch catch.
Ah, for sure.
It all happened late Sunday night along Alabama Avenue in Southeast. Luckily, nobody was seriously hurt. Passengers at Reagan National are not happy after several flights were grounded on Memorial Day.
It's crazy how many tents are in D.C. now.
Flights had issues heading into the airport. Flights
It's
from
just
at least a half dozen big airports
cities.
I know.
impacted. Just a few weeks ago, several planes were stuck on the runway at Reagan National for hours because of foul weather and staffing issues with American Airlines. One of the Democratic candidates running for Maryland governor has tested positive.
The saddest
for COVID.
part is
Scores
they
of
have all these
vaccinated and
facilities.
boosted and
They could
fortunate to
just
be asymptomatic. Last week,
They've
more
got
attended
them
the
here in
Maryland
Richmond,
Democratic
too.
Party
There's
gala
tents all
Really?
over the place, yeah.
since before the pandemic started. Moore's running mate, former Montgomery County Delegate Aruna Miller, announced last
That-
week that she also tested positive for COVID.
But a lot of times people
Maryland State Police are seeking
prefer
witnesses to a
their
hit-and-run
own
crash at
space.
Prince
Like they
George's
don't,
County over
you
the
know, they
weekend.
feel safer
Authorities
in
say
their own space
45-year-old man
than
was
to
riding his
go in
motorcycle
somewhere.
Sunday
Yeah.
morning when a vehicle
You
slammed
just
into
want
him
a
on
safe
Kenilworth
space
Avenue.
to have your own space. Yeah.
Motorcyclist was hospitalized, but there's no word on his condition.
It's so sad.
Throughout the Nationals, 13-5. I'm Earl Kirk. When you're looking for news for Black America, go to newsone.com.
Good morning. Traffic sponsored by Whole Foods Market on the ride down the Baltimore-Washington Parkway. Delays from 198 to 197, and then congested at the Beltway for the merging traffic. Yeah, you should be okay, though, from Riverdale as you head down into Northeast. 50 John Hanson Highway looks good out of Bowie. You'll slow near 410, and that's an off-and-on kind of deal as you head for the Anacostia River. Continuing in on New York Avenue, slow from South Dakota Avenue through the light of Bladensburg Road, and before Florida Avenue over to the 3rd Street Tunnel. Down Kenilworth Avenue, heavy and slow from Cheverly all the way down towards Pennsylvania Avenue. Northbound I-295, slow off of the Beltway in Oxon Hill up past the Naval Research Lab.
Still feels like Monday. It's going to feel like Monday all day.
Yeah.
Monday.
Stanton Road, inner loop of the Beltway flowing after.
This is going to be a long Monday.
Monday. For sure. Starting it this early.
$99 a pound through today while supplies last. Plus, Prime members save an extra 10%. Learn more on the Whole Foods Market app. I'm Robert Workman for News Talk 1450 AM WOL. Where information is power.
Join the WOL Text Club. Text DC News to 52140. Message and data rates may apply.
You're rocking with the most ultimate.
Now back to the Carl Nelson Show.
You're rocking with the most ultimate. All right, let's go.
Thank you for staying with us, folks, and good morning, all our listeners on 1010 Baltimore and 95.9 and 1450 WOL. I guess it's JB Bryan. She's a financial advisor. Those of you who are commuting, please drive safely. Before we go back to JB, let me remind you, later this morning, we're going to speak with Black politics expert, Dr. James Hill, calling us from San Francisco. We're going to talk about the misery index in the elections, race massacre, and what the polls are saying. I have a good conversation with Dr. Taylor. He's a political scientist, teaches at the University of San Francisco, and students fight to get in his classes out there on the West Coast. And later this week, you're going to hear from historian Dr. Walter Williams. Also going to introduce for the folks who don't know much about Baltimore. We've got the Great Blacks in Wax Museum. Pardon me. We're going to be here. We're going to talk about some of the great things that are in the city of Baltimore. Because people they only hear about the negative things in Baltimore. So we want to lift Baltimore up. If you know about them, there's some good things happening in your city, just reach out to us. You can reach me at Carl Nelson at radio1.com. Also, Mark from Anaheim is going to join us as well. So let's go back to JB, though. And by the way, JB is on social media. You want to see what she looks like? I see a lot of people. I'm looking at a lot of people are checking in and JB making comments. And JB, I've got a tweet for you. So JB, I'm going to let you finish your thoughts, and then I've got another tweet question for you.
Oh no, we were just, sharing so many different thoughts, but I was just sharing that let's just keep on moving forward. Don't let me slow you down. Don't let me slow you down. So many comments coming at you, even one talking about we should save in dollar bills versus $5 bills or $10 bills, that the money we keep available should be in dollar bills because they're easier to negotiate. Have you heard that?
Yes, I have. Because we talked a bit about having a bug-out bag, which Mark from Anaheim, one of our regular guests, has talked about quite a bit. And you talk about having money instead of keeping 20s or 10s in that. Keep a stack of dollar bills in case, as you mentioned, you got to negotiate, or in case the ATM machines are down or something like that. In case of an emergency and there's no electricity, you can't get cash, and you've got and you've got to eat. You got to trade or do something. Have a bunch of dollar bills. Yeah.
So keep it in the lowest common denominator. Like just keep. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And before we leave the jobs issue, those jobs that went overseas, do you ever see those jobs coming back?
Well, I think that is going to be a necessity, because one of the biggest things that has come out of COVID is that we have too much stuff going overseas. And I think that, like with the baby formula issue, that look at what we're going through with that. With the pharmaceuticals and the issues, like there's so many, manufacturing issues that we have run into because we're making everything overseas, that we're going to have to bring the jobs and the manufacturing and the training back to this country. And I think that that's going to bring some additional opportunities, but it's also going to force our country to start training our community into, with additional skills so that we can provide that. And I really feel that our community has been skipped over in a lot of the training that we're doing with people overseas. Could be the training that is provided in our neighborhoods.
And speaking about that, JB, you mentioned training, but let's extend it. College, going to college. College still a good buy for students these days?
Yeah, I definitely think that we need to be more structured in our decision to go to college. I think that the return on investment, if you just Google the return on investment, that the return on investment for college has been negative. Even after 10 years, people are not coming out with a positive, especially our community, with a positive return on investment from college, because many, and there was a study that, actually was done using Baltimore, Baltimore, I guess it was a PhD student, and they were studying Baltimore college graduates, and you can Google this, and that after graduating college, they were still on minimum wage, and that that is a problem when you're going to school, doing everything that you can, and you're still in the struggle. So is it really working, and are we getting the degrees that are actually helping? And what to me is the most overlooked is the importance of the skills, the associates, the return. The degree that had the largest return on investments were the associate's degrees. And I believe it's because you go in, you get the training, you get the skill, and you go to work. And so where, so that a person might go in and get, like, say, a degree in, say, social work and make, whatever, maybe 18,000. And then a person may get an associate's and get become a CNA and immediately start making 16,000, but they don't have the other 2 years of the delayed income. So they're making income 2 years sooner. So by the time the other person starts making 18, the other person might be up to 18 by then because they have been out of school 2 years earlier.
What about skilled trades, though, JB? A lot of jobs, if you've got a skill that you can't lose, you'll always be employed. You're an electrician, a plumber, or something like that.
Yeah,
Would you
definitely.
advise students coming out of high school to pursue that?
A must if they enjoy it. And we need to have more of that back into the public schools so they can come out of high school with that. When I was in high school, you could come out of high school with that. But now, they didn't have to go, to the community college and have to spend that money. But now, they've taken it out of the school from in many school systems. But but yeah, if you have to go, but if you like that, do it, encourage it, because they're gonna, come out sometimes way more, than a person with a 4-year degree with two years of electrical background and going right into the apprenticeship program or whatever is required. So, there's, that and a good job into, like, I had a friend that went to the, a program at one of the technical programs, went right into a job at Xerox 30 years ago, started repairing their machines, had a job for them forever. Never got a 4-year, was doing the things that people were doing with the 4-year degree. Just went in, learned their machines. Now, of course, if they, but when they did a different machine, they trained them on the different machines, but he knew their machines upside down. There was nobody that knew their machines any better than he did. But that school had a relationship with Xerox. So, yes, like, if that's what you do, like, but he said it was, like, extremely stressful, but he had a company car. He had, like, it was a nice job, benefits, everything. Better than a whole bunch of people, with 6, 7 years of school. So there's great opportunities out there, but we have to look at non-traditional opportunities more now for saving money, especially, and for creating money. But but some people don't need to actually even go to school. Like, and I think that our community has always felt like the only alternative is you have to go to college. Now, college can help, for depending on what you want. Like, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to become a teacher, it depends on what you want to become. Yeah, but it's not required for everything that you want, for everything in life. It just depends on what you want to become. So you have to first help, yourself decide what it is that you want to do. And then that's what you focus on, getting the skill set in order to become. And we just kind of work it backwards. We think everybody has to do the same thing.
And I was thinking what you were saying there when you talked about jobs, because now I understand that a lot of the employers are cutting back. You talked about health benefits and making you a full-time, part-time person. They won't let you work at 38 hours. They won't let you work the 40 hours, so you can't get all the benefits. Are you seeing a lot of this taking place?
No, I have one client, just 2 sons, both below under 25. Both of them got on with the post office full time. Started part time. Now both are full time, full benefits. Went in, did a great job. They love their job. Now are both financially independent. Going forward, one has 2 kids, one has none. So of course the one with 2 children, can't do as much as the one who has no children. But they,
But
this
again,
is
those are government jobs too. Those
Yeah.
are federal jobs, so they're going to have the benefits. But the private companies, that's the ones I'm referring to.
And there's a lot of private companies if you want to get in there with them. If you want to get in, there's
Hold that thought right there, JB. I'll let you explain that on the other side. We're going to take a short break so some of our stations can identify themselves down the line. Stations like 1010 Baltimore, 95.9 and 1450 WOL, where information is power.
The One VIP Visa debit card makes managing money simple and easy. There's no cost to get the card and no credit check. Enroll in direct deposit and stop paying check cashing fees. Hassle-free and easy, just like it should be. Go to onevip.com and get your card today. The One VIP Visa prepaid card is issued by Stride Bank N.A., member FDIC, pursuant to a license from Visa USA Incorporated. Use of the One VIP card is subject to terms and conditions.
This is reality radio. The definition of distraction is something that prevents a person from giving their full attention to something else. Distractions have been used since the beginning of time to dilute the power of the masses in order to maintain control over their lives. Contrary to the continuing gossip and reactions, the most important couple to the lives of all Americans, but particularly to the lives of Black folks in this country, is not actors Will and Jada, but in reality is Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and his treasonous wife, Virginia. Clarence was the only justice. Let me say that again. Clarence was the only one on the Supreme Court to vote against releasing the Trump White House records to the Congressional Committee investigating the January 6th failed coup d'etat. Once those records were opened, it became evident that Clarence Thomas had cast his vote to protect his wife and ignored his responsibility to the voting populace of the USA. So why aren't Clarence and Virginia getting the same level of scrutiny and public discussion that Will and Jada seem to have a never-ending abundance of? Why is there not an outcry from every walk of American life for the mandatory retirement or removal of a man whose tainted opinions can directly impact every one of our lives? The reality is we have been dangerously distracted because a personal slap only affects the parties involved, while a wrong Supreme Court decision can slap millions of us in the face, all at the same time. This is reality radio with Kathy Hughes. What's your reality?
Carl's going to ask me what I was saying. I'm going to be like, I don't know what I was talking
Clean
about.
up on North Capitol Street near Missouri Avenue, Riggs Road, that area. The northbound lanes of North
Somebody
Capitol
tell
Street.
me what I was talking
Southbound, some traffic is getting by under police direction. Looks like it's just going to be single file. Overturned vehicles involved there, so the cleanup will likely take a little while. Watch for police direction in that area. On the right into northeast, 50 John Hanson Highway, bogs down near 410 as you head for New York Avenue and Kenilworth Avenue. Baltimore Washington Parkway, a little sluggish at the Beltway and in Riverdale, and then south of 202 as you head for northeast. Slow going down DC 295 all the way to Pennsylvania Avenue, New York Avenue, heavy through the light at Bladensburg Road, and then from Florida Avenue over towards the 3rd Street.
For everything that you want, for everything in life. It just depends on what you want to become.
Plus, Prime members save an extra 10%.
Yeah,
That's what you were talking about.
everybody doesn't need to go. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so good.
WOL, Washington, D.C. W240,
That's
DJ,
right.
Washington. 95.9, WMMJ, HD3, Bethesda. WKYS, HD3, Washington. WPRS, HD3, Waldorf, and worldwide at WOLDCnews.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of News Talk 1450 WOL, Radio 1 Incorporated, or their management.
The Carl Nelson Show.
All right, let's go. Thank you for waking up with us this morning, folks, especially our new listeners out in Baltimore area are listening to us on 1010 and also in the DMV on 95.9 and 1450 WOL. On Taylor, we're telling Dr. James Taylor, but let's continue our conversation with financial expert J.B. Bryan. So, J.B., I'm going to let you finish your thoughts, and I've got a tweet question for you about credit, but go ahead.
I was just saying that the best choice for you is to do what is right for you. And I believe that too often we try to do what works for everyone else or what looks like it works for everyone else. And you can get to the end of your life and you never really did what felt right for you. And I think that what is the most peaceful and the biggest achievement in life or what success truly is, I think, is knowing that you lived your life your way. I remember one day I was looking at this post that LeBron James did, and he said, I did it my way, and I was like, I just feel that, you know what I'm saying? And it just went on and on and on, it was like, so just do it. Have the guts to do it your way. Like, and if you can get that into your kids to just do it your way, like they don't have to do it, but they just need to do it. They just need to do it. Like, just do something. Like, so if they just can't do nothing, but they just got to do it their way. They got to do it. They got to do it. They got to do it. And you got to do it. So first you got to be motivated and then they're going to do it, but do it your way. So, and have the guts enough to, if it doesn't feel right for you, and you tried it and it's like, whoa, this don't work. I'm wasting money. This isn't good for me. Then get out and try this. And then this could work. And then what a feeling, how good that must feel when you go, oh, this feels good for me. And and for someone who can say that I had to create a path that was never there, I thank God, because I know that my life, the steps that I take are making it easier for someone else behind me. And you have to dare to be that person. You have to dare to be that person.
Thank you, JB. Thank you for sharing that with us. We're going to let you go. But before we do that, how can folks reach you? Because a lot of folks got, questions about money and, they're kind of concerned of putting their business on the radio. They probably want to talk to you privately. How can they reach you?
JBBRYAN.com, JBBryan.com, or Afroeconomics.com, or 1-844-JB-Bryan with a Y and no T. Just Google me, baby. I'll be right there. Have a wonderful day, Carl. I'm so happy for you. The mornings are going to be good. I'm glad you're back in the morning.
Yeah, back in the mornings than where we were before. Thank you,
That's
JB,
right.
and thank you for being the first guest because
Thank
money is
you.
important, so we got to have you as
Thank
the
you.
first person on.
Thank you. Do it your way. Do
All right.
it. Bye-bye
JB
now.
Bryan, financial advisor.
Thank you. Thank you, Wida. Thank you, Michael. Love you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Green. Thank you. Thank you. See you later, Ms. Williams. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
Whew, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Okay. Thank y'all.